The intellectual humility answer, that sounds great, but fails the hiring committee member. Most candidates describe the technical fix they made in production and never once question whether their offline evaluation methodology was broken from the start. And that is exactly the signal the hiring committee is looking for. The question is, tell me about a time you changed your ML approach based on production evidence that contradicted your offline evaluation. This question probes intellectual humility. At Google, that means the willingness to question your own assumptions and surface systemic flaws, not just fix isolated incidents. What the interviewer is actually listening for is whether you identified a flaw in your evaluation pipeline itself, not just whether you patched a model that was underperforming in production. Here is how most strong candidates answer this question about offline versus production disagreement.
We launched a ranking model for our recommendations feed that had a strong AUC of 0.87 offline. After launch, click-through rate actually dropped by about 4%. I dug into the logs and found a feature that had slight staleness in production due to a caching delay. The training data had fresh values, but serving was seeing stale ones. I updated the feature pipeline to reduce the cache TTL, retrained the model, and click-through recovered within 2 weeks. It was a good reminder to always validate feature freshness end-to-end before launch.
Diagnosed a single serving skew incident. No reflection on eval methodology. Never questions whether AUC was the right offline metric to trust. Lesson is operational, not epistemological. Surface-level takeaway. No evidence of systemic change to how the team evaluates future models. Here is what I am writing in the debrief right now. Item 1. Candidate fixed the production incident, but never questioned the evaluation framework itself. Item 2. AUC accepted uncritically. No reflection on whether it was the right proxy metric. Item 3. Takeaway is operational checklist, not genuine methodological reassessment. Item 4. No evidence of systemic change that would prevent this class of failure recurrence. Verdict. Does not demonstrate intellectual humility. Same question, same production failure scenario. Listen to where this candidate points the blame.
We had a retrieval model with 0.91 recall at 10 offline. After launch, downstream conversion dropped 7%. I diagnosed a feature distribution shift. Fine. But then I asked a harder question. Why did 0.91 recall at 10 give us false confidence? I found our offline holdout was sampled from the same time window as training, so it couldn't surface temporal distribution shift at all. I proposed and built a time-stratified evaluation protocol, holdout always drawn from a later window. The team adopted it as the standard for every retrieval model we launched after that. The real failure wasn't the model. It was the evaluation design I had signed off on.
Candidate questions own evaluation design, not just the production failure. Identifies structural flaw in holdout sampling methodology. Systemic insight. Drives org-wide adoption of a new evaluation protocol. Cross-team scope. Takes explicit ownership of signing off on a flawed framework. Strong intellectual humility signal. Notice what changed. The candidate stopped diagnosing the model and started diagnosing the system they built to judge the model. Item 1. Candidate surfaced a structural flaw in own evaluation methodology, not just the model. Item 2. Identified temporal leakage in holdout design. Demonstrates deep evaluation literacy. Item 3. Drove team-wide adoption of time-stratified evaluation. Measurable systemic impact. Item 4. Explicitly takes ownership of signing off on flawed framework, rare and credible signal. Verdict, strong signal, strong hire. Before your loop, run your story through these 3 questions. Question 1. Does your story question the evaluation design, not just the model? If not, you've told a debugging story, not an intellectual humility story. Question 2. Did you change something about how your team evaluates future models? A patch to one model shows competence. A framework change shows intellectual ownership. Question 3. Do you explicitly take responsibility for trusting a flawed metric? Blaming the data pipeline without owning your sign-off removes the humility from the answer entirely. If you answer no to all three, the hiring committee member is not reading intellectual humility in your story. They're reading competent troubleshooting, and those are not the same signal. How do your real stories score? Get a personalized report scored against the interview rubric Google uses for MLE candidates at your level. Find it at interview101.com.